here at Orchids. Welcome to Sakatuna. Very soon we'll be taking you on a lovely journey up to an orchid grower, and you'll see exactly where all those New Zealand beautiful cymbidiums come from. So welcome.
No, that's not 1600. This is like 21600. I use the box.
Okay. And here we are inside the orchid house. This is Marahimo Orchids. This is Fluffy and Stu's wonderful orchid collection. And look at all these stunning beauties. I'm absolutely amazed. Absolutely gorgeous. As far as the eye can see, we have Cymbidium orchids. It's winter in New Zealand. It's orchid season. Today we're going to show you some designs. We're going to start with some very basic designs that just about anyone can do, up to a bit more technical things. And for our intro, we're going to start with some cylinder arrangements. I just want to explain the hum that's in the greenhouse here. It's a fan that runs between the sheets overhead to keep the sheets apart, just in case you're wondering what that hum is. We have tall cylinder vases. It's very popular at the moment, especially for corporate arrangements like I have sitting in my shop. People buy them, just orchids in a cylinder vase, to give us gifts. We present them in beautiful gift bags, but especially for corporates, functions, weddings even, to use the cylinder glass vase look. Very, very simple look. And what we're going to start with is a couple of aspidistra leaves. And one, I've chopped the stem off the bottom, and I'm going to line the vase with it. Now you say you shouldn't have greenery underwater. Certain foliages you can get away with it, and they don't really foul up the water too much. Aspidistra is one. The other one that I quite often use for corporate arrangements is philodendron leaf, which also doesn't really foul up the water. I'm just going to place those in there. I have some stunning China berry, Melia, which I'm going to place, let's clip the bottom. Just going to place this inside the vase. A little bit shorter. Just at the base. And inside, we are going to use a beautiful Cymbidium orchid called Festive Cheer. This one is absolutely incredible with its vibrant greens, which will pick up on the berries, and also it's got a beautiful, beautiful burgundy colored lip. Absolutely stunning orchid. And the best thing to do when you're making these sorts of arrangements is to pre-measure how high you want the orchid to sit, because once you've got them in the cylinders, every time you pull it out, you're going to damage the orchids. So I recommend you just eye it up a little bit. And I'm going to place it right inside the vase. And I have a stunning piece of willow. Just going to place behind for some line and some movement. And there we have a simple orchid arrangement. This is going to last you for weeks and weeks. This quality orchid will last about 3-4 weeks, if not longer. They're absolutely fantastic. You're wondering, how should I change the water? What I often do, I pick up the vase, I gently hold on, lift it over the top, the sink, let the water run out completely. It's not going to disturb the orchids, and then very gently from the back I fill it up again with fresh water. It'll stay absolutely gorgeous for weeks. And if you're in a corporate setting where you have like big reception benches or wedding, or like a wedding function, a large area, what you can do, these are wonderfully displayed in trios, even in two. Set up one we made earlier. Quite effective when you have them displayed. Several different sizes. These look fantastic in your house, in corporate settings, on a reception bench, functions. Anyone can put these together in their house. Another lovely idea with orchids and glassware is to use them in round bowls, and these can easily be used for a lovely table centerpiece. So we're going to start with a glass fish bowl. Now Tricia tells me that a lot of her readers are very scared to cut an orchid stem. They wonder, how do we use the heads, what should we do with it? Let me tell you, it's not that hard to cut the heads off. Oh, that's what everyone's saying right now, aren't they? First I'm going to start with some bear grass. Now bear grass is lovely and smooth, except for the end bits are very hard. And what I want to do is wind it around my fish bowl. So I'm going to cut the hard bits off and just get rid of those. And then I grab the bear grass just all one way and work just in one direction and just layer the grass. And if you notice, there's a little bit of water on the bottom of my fish bowl. And the stems just at the ends are just dipping into the water so they can drink. Do the same on this side. Gives a lovely transparent look. Next, I have a beautiful orchid called number 53. This came from a grower who never named any of his orchids except numbered them, and this happens to be the beautiful number 53. And I'm going to make a little hand tie bouquet with these orchid heads. Now you're thinking Cymbidium stems are not very long, they're only that long. There's a way of cutting them so you can extend the stem length. I have some here, and what I'm going to do, instead of cutting them right from the actual stem, I'm going to leave this bit and cut there, so I have that much length. Cut it just above, I have that much length. This I can leave and use that way. Same with these. Cut one there. Just prep my materials here. Cut it just, I hope you can see that well. Cut it just above there. And now I have enough materials to make a beautiful little hand tie bouquet. Just a couple more long ones from here. Start with one orchid, stems like this. If I made them really short, I wouldn't be able to tie them. Just start putting, and just like when you're spiraling, you just kind of try to keep the same direction going with your little orchids. And just make a lovely little cluster. Hold them together underneath by their throats. As you can see, there's a little ball type bouquet starting to form. These are absolutely stunning orchids. Maneuver them a little ways. And you can either tie this with ribbon, but today I'm using paper covered wire, which is the paper covered wire that way. And right underneath, hope you can see, you have to tie it above your hand and tie it quite tight. Now the paper covered wire will not damage the orchid stems. wind it around the petals. Make sure you don't break them. And then right underneath, I'm going to twist tie to a very tight little. You can also do this with ribbon and make sure you do a double knot and a little bow. I shouldn't use my scissors, but I'm just going to cut that off. Next, what I'm going to do, because I've got all these messy stems, I'm going to cut the stems very low, and I can only do it this way pointing to me, but I'll show you in a moment. See, I have to cut it that short for it to sit properly in the bowl. But if the stems were all this length, I would have never been able to achieve this because the stems are quite slippery. And what we're going to do is just simply place that is sitting exactly in the water. I have this much water, this will drink. The orchids can drink, uptake the water properly. You can gently lift it out, change the water if you like. Which is lovely for a table arrangement, for a wedding, for your home. And it will just last for absolutely weeks. And we sell quite a few of these in the shop. And we put them in lovely gift bags. And we also do a lovely finish on. Everyone always ties ribbons around the container. I prefer to tie them over the top. Another tip, always leave your ribbon on your roll before you cut it. That way you don't waste any ribbon. And there you are. A table arrangement. And of course you can do these in various sizes, and if you were using them in a corporate setting, you could have a couple on a reception desk. Lovely for weddings. Cymbidium orchid number 53 in a bowl. For my next piece, I'm going to use the wonderful giant bamboo, Bambusa giganteum. And I go directly to a source, a grower who cuts these beautiful pieces, and with a saw, we've just cut the ends off, just underneath the nodes, and what you end up with is the most incredible vase. Wonderful for using for flower arrangements. And what we're going to use is some gorgeous Cornus alba, our dogwood. And we're going to simply place some of the Melia berries, the Cornus alba, beautiful, incredible dogwood. And the bamboo is quite heavy, so it becomes a very, very strong base for putting your flowers in. As you've noticed, I haven't filled these with water at the moment, but we will shortly. I just wanted to show you the inside of the bamboo. Excellent for use for corporate arrangements, or if you just want to make a simple statement. And with that, we are going to put the color contrast of the dark red and the green of the Melia berries. We are going to put this absolutely incredible orchid called Festive Cheer. And if you notice, the coloring of the dogwood and the Melia berries picks up exactly on the center of the orchid. And in a smaller vase below, just simply going to place another Festive Cheer orchid. And then we have a couple of Heliconia caribe to make this look bit more tropical as an arrangement. And just to get a different color of red, just to make the orchids pop. Some behind for depth. And having used the twigs, I've got a natural grid for placing my flowers. So I don't need to use oasis, and they can just happily stay in the vase. For a different look, the orchids look beautiful with the green of the bamboo. Here we are again with some wonderful bamboo. This is a giant bamboo again, and I've cut a cross section between a few nodes and drilled holes. And now I could fill this with water, and I could use it this way, put some flowers in, but what I'm going to do today is create a table arrangement and use it lengthways on the table. And when I fill the holes with water, it makes for a beautiful vase, all contained on the inside. Can you hear those lovely birds at this time of day? They're fantastic. I'm going to take Melia and just very gently place the Melia in. A beautiful, beautiful dimension. I like very airy arrangements with just very limited material, nothing heavy. And this is perfect. For creating just that sort of mood. Next I'm going to use some white tulips. One of my all-time favorites. And these tulips will grow and grow towards the light, so they might lose their curve a little bit, so I can attach, or I can just wind them through. Just going to gently place them. Next I'm going to use this wonderful orchid called Mint Ice, and it has an ever so delicate fragrance. It's absolutely stunning. And some of the cymbidiums have really, really wonderful strong fragrances, and when you have them in your shop or in your house, it just fills the air. It's fantastic. And this one's very delicate, very pretty. Mint Ice. And because it picks up on the white, if you can see the throat and the lip, it just picks up the white from the tulips and the green from the Melia berries. It's just a nice subtle contrast. And I'm just going to poke just a few. A very oriental look about it. Bamboo and orchids, definitely. It's nice to work other materials in, western materials, a bit of a fusion, east meets west, I suppose. I'm also in between going to work some bear grass. Alongside the tulips. just for dimension and give it that really wispy, airy look that we're after. Just wedging these in behind, in between. And there we have very airy, simple table centerpiece. So we can use this as a table arrangement. It would look lovely on the middle of a nice large dining table, but you could also use it standing up. Just like that. For my next piece, I wanted to work with something quite tactile and something that's quite popular for designers to work with at the moment, and that is wool. So not only does New Zealand export wonderful orchids, we also export lots of wool. This is beautiful wool here. This is actually made from bamboo. And I thought what I would do is I started out with a frame. So you can use any sort of frame. It doesn't have to be a fancy one like this. You could use a bit of wood, you could use a vase, anything you can wrap some wool around. Put that aside. And what I started doing, I have a white and I have a cream, just for lovely color. And all I do next is just wind the wool around. And bamboo yarn, the wool's already on the arrangement. It's a lovely, lovely green color, and I've chosen these colors, I'll show you in a moment, for a very, very lovely little orchid. Wind it around, wind it around. And because it's on a frame, you still get a bit of dimension because you can actually look through the slits a little bit. And you can use this standing up as a side arrangement. Or if you wanted to, you could also do an arrangement sideways this way. Fasten it to the inside. Piece of sticky tape. And next, what we're going to do, I found a friend of mine gave me these little jars, and they're from a homeopathic set. And she said, "Oh, do you want these for anything?" And I said, "Of course. Anything that holds water can hold a flower." So what we're going to do is just attach them onto the wool and make them part of the design. And what we're using is paper covered wire. You can do this with bigger test tubes as well. It's got a rim, so in between the rim you just tighten a very, very tight, with a couple of twists. You have that piece there. And you can attach where you want your flowers to sit. You can attach it right to the wool. Back. Twist ties very tight, tuck it into the back, and then to make them look like they belong there and also to hold them straight, you just pull a little bit of wool over top. A couple down here. Okay, a couple of twist ties. Let's tuck it towards the back. In this design, I'm only going to use 5 flowers. Just want to keep it very, very simple. And two floral materials. Okay, just tuck some in. Okay. And how I'm going to fill these with water, I use the hanging plant water, which is just great, and you can just get enough. After we filled the little vials with water, I'm going to put another material I absolutely love working with, and that's maidenhair fern. I'm just going to a couple of pieces of maidenhair fern, just because it's very wispy, very dainty floral material, and we're trying to achieve a bit of a Hogarth curve. And again, to make it part of the design, part of the container. Just ever so slightly. Put a little piece of yarn over top of it, and that becomes part of the design. Then we are going to use one of my absolute favorite little mini cymbidiums, which is Elfin Beauty. And the reason I chose this one is if you look closely, the veins of the orchid are exactly the color of the yarn, and this orchid inspired me to buy these particular colors. And what we're going to do in each little vial, gently place these delicate little orchid heads. Very simple. 5 flowers and 2 little pieces of maidenhair fern. In the New Zealand woods, you can find this wonderful mosses and lichens. And I just discovered this wonderful company in the South Island called Magic Moss. They have an absolute plethora of wonderful finds from the forest floor, such as these beautiful mosses. And what I thought I would do is use my trough, which I've used in the past for Mike and Tricia's wonderful magazine. And this time, instead of doing a tall arrangement, I would do a low arrangement that can be used for a table. And all these different textures of mosses, I'm just going to group. I've got some wire that I've bent over to make kind of like ferning pins, just to hold the moss into place. Absolutely wonderful textures. Got wet oasis on the bottom, so this can be watered afterwards or sprayed if you like. Wonderful texture, a bit of a branch growing out, wonderful and woodsy. How I make these, I just bring these over. Some more things sprouting up from our forest. Some ferns. Just doing clusters. Mosses. Packing it in. And then we have a beautiful orchid called Powder Puff. Absolutely stunning pink with a lovely burgundy throat again. And again, I just want to use the blooms. I'm going to cut it quite short. Do some clusters. Go directly into the floral foam. I love working in groupings, especially when you have groupings of all these different textures. It just kind of leads your eye through. And for some extra depth and dimension, I'm just going to use a little treasure from the forest floor. Very wild and woodsy. Almost like we're finding these orchids on the floor of the forest. A very simple yet effective table arrangement. Against the wall. I quite often have this sitting in my window, just displayed in the wall. I've done it with different hydrangeas, just different textures, just leaning up against the wall. And if you spray mist it and keep it moist, it'll last for a very, very long time. Now Fluffy has just brought us in a wonderful specimen of an orchid. And if you notice, when the camera goes all the way down, look what it grows with. Wonderful, wonderful roots. And I'll show you something interesting we can do with the roots. We can actually use them as a base or a container for a lovely arrangement. So here we have our roots, and they're just very interesting, and they feel like cork. So straight away I thought we can stick things into and use it as a base. So what we're going to do, because I want to make it, I don't so much want to make a container and flowers, I want to make it part of a whole design. And here I have some branches. And we just had Calicarpa season, and I was hoping to get some this week, but unfortunately they are finished. It's such a short season. But I had some Calicarpa lying around, and I've taken the berries that have since dried up, taken them off. And what I'm going to do is just take the stick, and with the pins we used earlier, our homemade ferning pins, we're just going to attach some of these branches. And you can probably see a frame starting to form already. Since this material is very much like cork, our roots, we've also got bark in there as well, and the roots have just grown and held it all together. I'm just going to, wherever I can, sure I leave some room for my orchids, which are going to go on the inside. I think I will place next. Get some other branches first. Some more beautiful lichen covered branches. Make this another woodsy arrangement. Textures work very well together. Also going to add just a few pieces on the outside. Now a base is starting to form that you could use with any sort of flowers. You can put little test tubes all over and add all sorts of different blooms. I'm going to add some test tubes for our orchids. Twist these on. These test tubes have lips, like a rim, and we've twisted paper covered wire and some in the middle to attach. And then we just twist it around a wooden stick, the calicarpa branches. And then we're going to use our orchid, and this one is called Smiley. Really, really happy orchid with its yellow lip. Very beautiful. Smiley is the orchid you see all around us in the background. That way. Stem with some paper covered wire and fall out. And we're going to finish up with a few more branches. More itsy bits. And there we have 3 orchids arranged. Using roots as a container. Next we're going to make a wedding bouquet. And once again I'm using this lovely Melaleuca, the paper bark, which is absolutely wonderful texture. And then I find it works really, really well with the orchids, especially the color. And this is a beauty called Yowie. And what I'm using is a grower box, a little bit of recycling, and I'm going to use that as my base. And what I've made underneath is a little frame. I taped some wires and made a little 4-prong base, and I'll show you how to tape that in a moment, but I've just used the tape that we use in the shop and attached it, and then I just glued with wood glue or PVC glue some of the bark on the top, held it down with some washing clothesline pegs. It's all sealed, and I'll just show you how to make that. Now I use this particular tape. Have my wire, start at the top, and you need 4 of these. You can use 16 or 18 gauge wire. then you take the 4 wires that you've covered with stem tape, put them together, and find a point about there. And then you tape them all together, the 4. And you bend these over that way, and you have a little base. And next you put some bark on, and then you can just tape that down with the tape. And you cut it to length, and you end up with a little base. This is a layered look of a bouquet. So first I'm going to put some bear grass, and I'm going to just tape it onto the back, because you're not going to end up seeing the back in a little while. Cut off the excess. And next I'm going to take another piece of the paper bark, and I'm going to place that over top and create a little pocket. And I could do this with the PVC glue, but I like using Oasis floral adhesive. And just around the outside, because I'm going to be placing flowers inside my pocket. So I just want to take it, glue it around the outside. And just for the time being, get my clothes pegs just to hold it into place while the glue dries and sets. And I can still get my hands in to put flowers in. Just going to look at the underside. You can do this with the PVC glue as well. I just happen to have this glue here at the moment. And because we're trying to create a layered look, I have covered a few other pieces of a grower box with some bark on the outside and placed a hole in the middle. And we're just going to force those through, and already you can see the bouquet starting to form, the base. And this one I've done completely, and I'm going to place it this way underneath so that the bottom, the underside of the bouquet, is also finished. And then I'm going to just put some glue in the base so that nothing moves. And at the end we'll put some extra tape around the base so that we're going to make like a little stopper so it doesn't move down. And these are probably set by now. And there we have a frame to make a wedding bouquet out of. So next, I'm going to work with a wonderful Yowie orchid. I'm just going to use a couple of blooms, and I'm just using the heads, and I'll show you some techniques. I don't actually need to wire and tape them, because I can just stick them in the pocket with glue, the floral adhesive, and they will stick. But I just want to show you a few wire and taping techniques to make everything lightweight. We're going to wire some orchids, and there are several different ways of wiring orchids, and these are 2 methods that I often use. And again, I've made a hairpin with a wire, just by bending a very fine 28-30 wire across. And then what you can do is very, very gently place it in behind the throat. Very, very gently, because you don't want to see them. And then just underneath, you nip it ever so slightly and bring it down right between the two bottom petals there. And then you can just work it around the stem. And then I always cross a wire through here as well. Bend that down. And then with my tape, just go around and tape it ever so gently. And that's one method. The other method that I quite often use now, I dip a wire into some cold glue, and this is quite a heavy wire. This is a 18 gauge, and I push it straight up into the orchid. I let that set, and then I tape over top exactly the same way, and that's the method I use most often now. If I'm a bit unsure, I still put a cross wire through, but I generally just tape over that, and that holds up perfectly.
And why do you need to wire them?
Sometimes for corsage work, buttonhole work. Sometimes if you just need a very thin stem on an orchid, you could even use that in an arrangement for a wedding. Yeah. I think our bouquet has set. We can start working with the pockets. Two gorgeous orchids. Just going to put the cold glue. Just going to leave them lying face down for a moment because the glue just takes a second to set. We're going to go right into the pocket. Just hold them in place for a moment. Next, I've beaded some hyacinths onto a piece of very 32 gauge wire. It's beading wire, just with a needle and thread. And all you do in this case, take the hyacinth buds, poke it right through the wire. And the first one, how I started, I just put one up and then pulled the wire over top and twisted it around upwards. And to finish it, I'm going to do exactly the same. Pull it back through the wire. Cut it and poke it back underneath. With the hyacinths, I'm just going to put a little loop, a little hook, so they kind of hang. Just some wire. I will just tape. Just something for the glue to attach to. It's going to go inside the pocket in between the orchids. dangle. And then I have a beautiful piece. A little piece of jasmine from the garden. And it's just the buds, the tips, which is exactly the color of the yaoi orchid. I'm just going to put that in behind, also straight into the pocket. And we have some lovely string of beads, Senecio. Also have this in pots at home. So we have some Senecio, and we've also added some glue. And we'll also stick that in the pocket. Just dangle that on that side. And then got some gorgeous cyclamen. They're such a pretty flower. We usually just have them as plants, but you can actually use them in wedding bouquets and all sorts of flower arranging. And what's beautiful about them, their stems have a burgundy color, which is the exact color of the orchids. So I don't want to hide the stems too much. Just going to go tucked in on that side. And just a lovely tiny little guy who can just peep out of the pocket. And to finish our wedding bouquet, what I've done, I've cut a few little squares out of the Melaleuca paper bark. Put some glue on one, and then a second one over top with the fishing line in between, and you end up with a very movable string. And that mimics the use of a square as a base, and we have the squares. And we're just going to hang that over top, just to cage it in, and then with some floral adhesive, just glue it in between one of the layers. Just gently. For a bit of dimension and break up the hyacinths. And there we have a wedding bouquet. Final piece, we've actually come inside. It's winter in New Zealand and it gets dark quite early, and it was also getting very cold and chilly in the Cymbidium house. So we've come inside, and as you can see behind us it's gone dark, and this is our final piece here. For this I decided to make a frame, and I like working with depth and dimension and quite a bit of transparency. I don't like filling things too much with leaves. And this is actually 5 wooden timber frames. And I'll just give you a quick side view. If you can see that, those are 5 big timber frames. And then behind each frame, got some willow, and with fencing nails that are U-shaped, I nailed in the willow in behind, put another frame. Nailed more willow, put another frame, nailed more willow, put another frame, and you end up with a freestanding frame and also a lot of depth and dimension. And I just wanted to create a little hole, and when you're making these you have to be really careful that you keep that shape. And we can use it sideways, we can use it lengthways, turn it upside down, any which way you like. And something like this I'll use for a window display in the shop. I also used it for corporate events. And it'll keep, the willow will dry because it's still fresh. The willow will dry and a year from now I can still use it. Otherwise I'll take it apart and nail some new fresh willow in. We're going to use a wonderful green orchid called Ultimatum. And it's this beautiful orchid right here. It's absolutely stunning. And in this design I could fill it completely, but what I thought I would do is make a bit of a crescent, just to highlight this sort of area where everything kind of flows into this hole, this void. Again, I'm going to use the lovely Melia berries, the China berry. And for this piece, Fluffy has kindly decided to come and help me. She's been tying on all the tubes into the frame. So we're just going to tie, thank you. Fluffy, I have to say I've truly enjoyed working in your orchid house today.
Well, if we had to choose on a winner, I would say it would be me.
It's been wonderful working with amazing orchid, amazing varieties. And I thank you very much for the opportunity. It's great.
I like to think that I've got a step ahead of all those girls who belong to my club. I've got a few new ideas that they don't yet.
And I've got a new supplier.
Teamwork.
So what we're doing is we're just fastening the tubes on both ends. And these are the test tubes that have the lip on the top. It's much easier. You can just hang your tubes and just tighten them in a little bit better. A frame like this you can also make with curly willow. It also looks stunning. Moss-covered branches, lichens. If you did like a whitewash frame, you could use the hazel, the contorted hazel, the white branches that they've taken the bark off of. And then we're going to fill it again with the water filler. Thank you, Fluffy.
Thank you. I'll get some of your help.
Got it?
Oh, right.
Fill the test tubes. Very easy gadget, easy to fill, also easy to maintain because these orchids will last for weeks and weeks in the frame. You don't tend to drink too much water. This gives such a beautiful dimension. I'm going to work some pieces towards the back and towards the front as well, so I get a lovely depth in my work. Also some jasmine in the garden. Just behind the cube. This is actually considered a noxious weed in New Zealand. But I love the flowers when it's flowering. I just can't sell them in the shops. But nothing stops us from using it in our design work. Around. weaving it through the willow a little bit, so it just looks like it just kind of belongs in there. Piece that doesn't show. I'll start filling in with some orchids. That wonderful, wonderful green orchid called Ultimatum. Also has a beautiful slight fragrance. Picks up perfectly on the yellow berries. And again, filling in with the orchids, but not completely solid. You still want to be able to look through, see the willow, see the berries on the other side. Depth and dimension. We don't want to lose that in this frame. Working at the back as well of this frame. So when I do something like this for a window display, I see it in my window, but I also want it to be viewed from the inside of my shop. And I'm just going to put a few going towards this way, follow the lines of all the willow. Of course, frames like this you don't necessarily have to make a big version like this. You can make a smaller version that you can use for a wall hanging by chance, or a long and low version to use on the center of a table. Lots of different uses. Tiny little guy. Oops. And there we have our frame. And here we are with our beautiful New Zealand Cymbidium orchids, and several different ways for you to use them. I don't think any of the techniques are too difficult for you to get on and have a lovely display of orchids in your home or to use for your corporates or wedding ideas.
So finally, we'd like to introduce you to the two powers behind these stunning orchids, and that is Stu and Fluffy Duff. Hey guys, fantastic day. What beautiful, beautiful flowers. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, now Fluffy is actually a flower arranger as well, and a very keen one, and you have workshops here, or lessons here, don't you?
We have a group that meets every week, which
Yes.
is fabulous.
So Stu, the orchids themselves, what we really want to know, florists want to know, is what should they do with them when they come out of those boxes?
Oh, yeah, basically, like, you leave them in the boxes, they're going to overheat. You take them out, preferably hang them upside down. Make sure that the vial that is carrying the water is full. And keep them in a cool place.
And why upside down?
Generally speaking, gravity, the water flows downhill. It just helps them drink.
So the longer you can hang them upside down until you're actually using them, the better it's going to be for the orchids.
The better they will be, as long as there is plenty of water in that little vial, that transporter vial, that is placed on the base of the orchid.
And are they something that you put in a chiller, or you keep out of the chiller, or what?
Don't chill them. If you put them into a chiller, you're going to get chill burn. As soon as they start coming down below 4 degrees, they will chill burn. So just a cool area. This pack house you can see here that sits at basically something region about 16 degrees, 16, 18 degrees. And that is perfectly okay. They'll store in here anything up to 2 to 3 weeks, that's not even a problem.
Now you also told us when we were in the orchid house filming to keep the door shut because of the bumblebees. Can you tell us what the bumblebees do?
Bumblebees are, bumblebees, they're pollinators. And orchids and bumblebees and bees are not very good friends, not for the commercial orchids that we're doing. If you were doing breeding, yes, you don't mind. But if you're not doing breeding, you're just doing cut flowers like I'm doing here, you don't want bumblebees. They remove the pollen cap, and on removing the pollen cap, that orchid flower, that particular floret that you looked at, is basically US. To us it's a US flower, we've got to chop it off. To the florist, we want to deliver a product to them that is going to have a longevity of 2 to 3 weeks, any minimum, absolute minimum. You take the pollen cap off, you've got 2 to 3 days.
And so this would actually be just as valid in an orchid in a flower shop.
Yes.
The same things.
Yeah, you drop that pollen cap. Even in the flower shop, you drop the pollen cap off, remove that pollen cap, and you will change the whole texture of that flower. The flower, nature thinks it's pollinated. The whole flower starts to change, and it's a process of basic senescing, which is just dying.
Now the other thing I heard you talking to Frank about today, she was saying some of the orchids that she's had in her shop are very thin and they deteriorate very quickly, and you were saying different species of flowers have different textures.
Yes,
Can
they
you
do.
talk about that for us?
There's a lot of different, every single Cymbidium orchid has a different texture to it on the flowers, on the actual petals. The thinner they are, the easier they're going to bruise. And there are various ones that really we will never grow here, basically because the management content of that is so high, and to deliver an absolute perfect product, which we're looking for to deliver out, is almost impossible for the conditions that we work under. Whereas there's other varieties which really they're a very hardy variety, very hardy, thicker petal, thicker flower. And they will take a lot more punishment.
And how
in
do
the
you
box.
find them?
Sorry?
How do you find them? Sorry to interrupt you. How do you know which ones are the thicker ones? Do you order them by name?
No, it's basically traveling around, having a look at other those people who have been in the business longer or have got different varieties, friends of yours who've got different varieties, and basically just feeling the flower and then having a look at it, and you start to pick it up very, very quickly. That one there, yes, that's going to survive. That one I'm going to, even after packing, sleeving, handling, because you've got to remember that by the time a florist gets a flower, whether it's in this country or overseas, the chances of that flower is going to be handled 10 times. It's got to go through the sleeving process, unsleeving process, you name it, go through everything. Somewhere along that line you've got to be able to say, right, is that flower going to handle those 10 times?